But this was the speech of the night, of the entire 4 days. This is the speech. Sean O'Brien said a lot of things that needed to be said. And the fact is, he was invited to the RNC. He has not been invited to the DNC. And that's a bad look, considering that the Teamsters have 1.3 million members. Here we go.
I want to thank the hardworking Teamsters and union members here in Milwaukee who play vital roles in the building and operations of this convention. I also want to thank President Donald Trump for opening the RNC's doors to the Teamsters Union and inviting me to speak before you tonight. I travel all across this country and meet with my members every week. You know what I see? An American worker being taken for granted. Workers being sold out to big banks, big tech, corporates, and the elite. And I'm not the only one who sees this. Everyday families see it. The American people aren't stupid. They know the system is broken. We all know how Washington is run. Working people have no chance of winning this fight. That's why I'm here today. Because I refuse to keep doing the same things my predecessors did.
I think it's important to note that while this is not going to change the GOP, and while jackasses like Mike Johnson, with all due respect, they're not fighting for labor. Most of these guys are not fighting for labor. I doubt Byron Donalds is fighting for labor. For Trump, it's about politics, winning. I'll tell you why, Chris, because unfortunately, as much as I do appreciate the fact that the NLRB has improved a very healthy amount, maybe the best part of Biden's presidency is the improvement of the NLRB. I do think that this is a very important issue because so much of the things that needed to happen in the Biden administration, and I do believe that Biden's biggest failure as president, aside from obviously aiding and abetting a genocide against the Palestinian people, was his failure to pass the PRO Act in his first 100 days. That was his signature policy. That would have been a policy that would have changed labor rights in this country for the better in a significant way. And that, of course, stems from, more than anything else, our ability to fight back against right-to-work laws. As a Floridian, this is a huge problem that we face here. And it's a huge problem that people face in all different countries, in states, excuse me, not countries. Well, they probably do in other countries too, but here it's really bad. And then, of course, you're talking about, Wisconsin, for example, is a right-to-work state. There's a lot of places where this is a problem, and it's only gotten worse. And so, by that measure, we have to consider, are there other options? Not necessarily in the GOP, but you got to get your leverage wherever you can. Now, maybe you're right, Chris. Maybe this is just a power play for political power on the part of Sean O'Brien. But you know what? The message is resonating. And that counts. You got to get your leverage wherever you can. Our future is with labor. That is the only future. And I don't care where it comes from. Neither should anybody else. Eventually, the people will have their say if they ever figure out how to band together. That's the key.
Today, the Teamsters are here to say we are not beholden to anyone or any party.
Now, the funny thing about that statement is they're cheering him saying we're not beholden to any party, but I can assure you that that is not something that the Democratic Party wants to hear. And that would go for anything. And therein lies that level of confidence that comes with whether it's Trump or just the disposition of the GOP versus the Democratic Party. And that's why that message is powerful. But it's not the only one. And thank you, Kat. 100% a great idea. We are going to have a number of people that are from South Florida that are supporting Jen that are going to be at the protest against Netanyahu on Wednesday next week. Some of them might be wearing purple shirts, so be on the lookout for that. I'll be on the ground door knocking, as will Jen, as will many others. But I think that this is important. Get that message out there. So let's continue.
Several months ago, I asked the RNC and the DNC for the opportunity to speak. To be frank, when President Trump invited me to speak at this convention, there was political unrest on the left and on the right. Hard to believe. Anti-union groups demanded the president rescind his invitation. The left called me a traitor. And this is precisely why it's so important for me to be here today. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want, but one thing is clear. President Trump is a candidate who is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. And I think we all can agree, whether people like him or they don't like him, in light of what happened to him on Saturday, he has proven to be one tough SOB. Several months ago.
It's true. And that's going to stick. But there is more.
I know that no window or door should ever be permanently shut. In my administration, the Teamsters reached out to 8 Republican senators who stood up for railroad Teamsters over our fight for paid sick leave. Josh Hawley was one of them. We started talking. Senator Hawley changed his position on national right to work. Then we started walking. Senator Hawley walked a Teamsters picket line in St. Louis and a UAW picket line in Wentzville, Missouri. More than that, I want to recognize Senator Hawley for his direct, relentless, and pointed questioning of corporate talking heads, lawyers, CEOs, and apologists. Amazon is valued over $2 trillion.
I want to make one quick point here, which I think is important. Now, I've been seeing a lot of messages regarding Josh Hawley for, comments that he's made regarding probably LGBTQ, abortion, things of that nature, that obviously people have very strong opinions and disagreements on. The one thing that Sean O'Brien has pointed out here, which is critical, when it comes to the economic crisis of our time, when we are faced with this reality pertaining specifically to this problem of right to work, of union busting, if Josh Hawley is going to be on the side of workers, regardless of who they are, that's important. And there are people who say, well, no, we can't work with them. Well, if they're working with you and not against you, then you have to live in reality. There are bigots in this country. There are racists. There are sexists. There are homophobes. There are anti-trans. There's everything. And anything in between. And you know what? They have a vote. And they have a voice. Now, you can choose to pretend that they don't have one, or you can try to corral as many people as you think you can that are all on the side of everything that is anti-life racist, anti-bigoted, all that. You could have it all. And you know what? The only thing that matters is who you are. You can't control what other people do. You could try to show them the light and point them in the right direction. Many of them will find that way. Many won't. I have people that I still have in my life that I do not agree with on a number of things. The best I can do is to present them with why this is right and your way is wrong. Some will agree, some won't. But this idea that you just cast people aside, like people who casted people aside because they didn't agree with them on the vaccine, that's a prime example of that. And that's the same thing. Josh Hawley is not somebody that I support. But I will break bread with him if he's going to fight for labor rights and end right-to-work laws. Anybody who says otherwise just doesn't understand politics and really doesn't understand different cultures of people. And you can hate them, you could disparage them, you could do all of that. But you know what? That's not going to solve our labor crisis. We need it. I've told Jen for many years, you do not have to succumb to the system, but you are going to have to work with people that have. There's no other way. This is not a monolith. This is not how this country is either designed or has been executed over time, especially in this current environment that we're living in, where everyone is at everybody's throats. I want what's best for this country. We all should want what's best for this country. I have heard and seen nothing in this statement that would even indicate, even slightly, that Sean O'Brien is carrying water for the GOP, much less Donald Trump. He took advantage of an opportunity to speak to millions of people across the country to espouse a message for labor. How in the fuck can anybody argue against that? I don't know. If he went there and specifically said that the GOP is better on labor than the Democratic Party, then you would have an argument because he would be wrong. But he didn't make that statement. Although, depending on who you ask, you would think that's what he did. Well, that's not what I heard. We'll continue.
That makes it the 14th largest economy in the world. What is sickening is that Amazon has abandoned any national allegiance. Amazon's sole focus is on lining its own pockets. Remember, elites have no party, elites have no nation. Their loyalty is to the balance sheet and to the stock price at the expense of the American worker.
That is 1,000% correct, and the crowd didn't exactly know how to respond to it. Now, granted, Bezos is a major financial contributor to the Democratic Party, so that probably went over a little bit better than, maybe, I don't know if the Koch brothers even would resonate with that crowd. But the point is, these are statements that are being made that should be made, and the fact that, I hope they get made at the Democratic National Convention, but I won't hold my breath. The fact that it's been said. I don't know, Henry. I don't know if they realize that Trump is elite, or maybe they do, but they just think he's their elite guy. FDR once said, "Make me do it." Well, people did. And maybe that's what will happen if Trump gets in again. We don't know. But it is something to think about.